everyone, welcome to another video for SimonsSaysStamp.com. I'm starting out today with some Bazzill Marshmallow cardstock and I'm scoring it at 4 1/4 so that it's a standard size card. Then I went back and scored it at about every 3/8 of an inch, just creating kind of a embossed grid pattern on the front of the card. So after I scored it that direction, I turned it the other way and scored it the other direction down to the half of the card that I scored previously. So that's what the front of the card looks like, and I just folded that in half and set that aside while I work on the rest of the card. Now I'm using this stamp set from Mama Elephant. This is the Soiree stamp set, and I'm going to be stamping the little banner stamp across some watercolor paper. This watercolor paper is 2 1/4 inch wide, and I'm stamping it in StazOn Jet Black ink because I'm going to be doing some watercoloring and some distress ink coloring. So I've got my craft sheet down and I'm using 2 different distress ink colors. I'm using Antique Linen and Vintage Photo. I want the Vintage Photo to be more near the bottom of this watercolor piece, and I only want a little bit of it, so I'm only going to be kind of pressing the top edge of that stamp pad down into that little pool of ink I've started. And after I've got the distress ink down, I went in with my mini mister, or this is actually just a mister from Ranger, just some water, and I misted a lot of water on there because I wanted it to be really, really light. I didn't want any of the colors to be super dark. And then pressed my watercolor paper down into the ink. And I kind of smushed it down and wiggled it just a little bit to get those colors really melding and blending together. So it's really, really pale right now, and that's exactly what I want because I want to be able to build the color. So I dried that with my heat tool just to speed it up. And then I turned it over and pounced it into the pools of ink that are left on my craft sheet. And this just added a little bit darker color into areas, and it looks a little bit more watercolory, and that's the look and feel that I was going for. So just pounced that into some different areas, and areas that got a little too dark, I just put it right back into some water to lighten it up, and then I used my heat tool to dry that once again. I'm now using 5 different markers, distress markers, and I'm going to be picking up water with a water brush, an aquash brush, so I just sprayed some water onto my craft sheet, and I'm just coloring straight onto that banner with the color, and then picking up my water brush and blending that out. So the colors I used are Shabby Shutters, which is the green, Tumble Glass, which is the pale blue, Scattered Straw is the pale yellow, Dried Marigold is the kind of peachy orange color, and Aged Mahogany is that darker red color. And those are the colors that I thought that would have a little bit of a vintage look, but also be a little bit more like a party, like a birthday. So here I am just blending in that Scattered Straw. And then I wanted to add some little droplets all over this. So I took a marker and just drew all over the craft sheet to get some ink down, and mixed some water in with that so it was really, really wet. And then I picked up my brush and kind of tapped it in order to get some water splotches and water droplets down onto that piece. And I did that with Shabby Shutters and also Aged Mahogany. So I let that dry, and then now I'm using some Neenah Solar White cardstock, and I'm going to be stamping the cake on it. And I started with the cake stand, and I used a embossing magic powder bag from Inkadinkado, and then stamped the stand in Versamark ink, coated it in silver embossing powder. This is Ranger silver embossing powder, and then heat set that with my heat tool, and that's just going to give a nice metallic look to that cake stand. I then stamped the bottom part of the cake with Soft Pool ink from Hero Arts, and then did the top with Butter Bar shadow ink from Hero Arts. Those colors are just playing off the colors in the banner. And then I moved on to kind of decorating the banner up there. I took the Mini Hearts die set from Simon Says Stamp. It has some really, really tiny hearts in it. I took the smallest heart that's in the set, and I used a little bit of washi tape to hold that down onto the banner and ran it through my die cutting machine, and that just cuts out a little tiny heart right in the middle of that banner. These dies are really great for those areas on cards that you want to get into the center where a punch might not reach, but you still want to have that little tiny heart punched out. So a little heart right there. I also ran it through my Big Shot machine one more time and die cut another heart on the bottom part of the banner. I then cut out the cake, put a little foam on the back, and put that onto my watercolor paper. I then took the candle stamp and used some more StazOn ink to stamp those candles, and then went back in with 2 markers. I used dried marigold and shabby cheddar just to color those candles a little bit. Can't really see the color too much because they're really small detailed, but just a little punch of color helps it blend in with the rest of that watercolor piece. I also used scattered straw for the candle flames. I then added a little bit of glue onto the top part of that cake and took one of the hearts that I die cut and put that right over the top of the yellow piece. I also used a little bit of aged mahogany just to color that to a little bit more of a red color. Now I have some cardstock vellum here, and I've stamped it with the Make-A-Wish stamp in Versamark, coated it in white embossing powder from Hero Arts, and then heat set it. And that's going to give me a nice sentiment that goes down over across the cake. And I wanted to have it have lots of dimension and have it kind of stand up a little bit, so I thought vellum would be really fun here. Put a little adhesive on the back, and then turned it back over so that I could fold over those edges and have it completely centered on that bottom tier of the cake. So just folded those over and had those down. I then put a lot of foam adhesive on the back of this watercolor piece. Like, don't be afraid to put lots of foam adhesive because you don't want it to be sagging or warping at all. And with watercolor paper, it tends to do that. So I put that down onto the card front, and then I took my corner chomper and used the 1/2 inch corner rounder to round the 2 outside corners of the card. And then I took some May Arts natural twine and wrapped that around the card a few times and tied it into a bow. I thought I just needed a little something extra over there on the left side of the card. Trimmed that off, and that is the card for today. Hope you guys enjoyed, and thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys next time.